Hey everyone, my name is Bjorn Dosklund, and if you're looking for freedom from your phone, the Wise Phone 2 might be for you. Currently, it's January of 2026. In December of last year, I decided that I wanted freedom from my phone. It was the end of the year. I had realized that I was spending too much time browsing Instagram, just scrolling through reels, looking at YouTube shorts. I would wake up in the morning, maybe spend 15 minutes doing that. Night before I went to bed, 30 minutes. I was trying to avoid a hard situation because let's be honest, we're humans, and sometimes it's easier to avoid the hard situations than facing them. Reflecting back on when I was looking to transition from the my iPhone 13 Pro to the Wise Phone 2, I remember looking online and not really finding very much information. I knew it was, the dumbest smartphone that you'll find or the smartest dumb phone you'll find, one or the other. Um, and that it did have some apps, but they were limited. In the end, I knew that I was going to have to make some kind of sacrifice to get it. And so I just decided to bite the bullet and buy the Wise Phone 2 and deal with the consequences later. But looking back, when I was trying to find information, most of the reviews I found were, hey, I tried the Wise Phone 2, or I tried this other minimalist phone. I did it for a month and then I dropped it. And now I'm back to my iPhone and here's my experience and how I'm a better person. My goal is actually to stick with it and see if I can, uh, make this part of my life and just, live a little differently. So I wanted to give a review to people who kind of wanted the pros and the cons and are wanting to stick with the Wise Phone. If you're the kind of person that has unlimited self control, this phone is not for you. Stick with your smartphone, way more functional. You can do way more with it. But if you're the kind of person that maybe browses too much or just wants to get off their phone a little bit more, maybe you look at inappropriate things online and you want to get away from that, and having a phone in your pocket is a trigger for you. Maybe you're a mom or a dad who just kind of wants either safety or some kind of boundaries around their kids, and you're looking at getting them a phone for the first time. I think that the Wise Phone 2 is a good place to start. If I looked at this phone, I give it an A. A month into it, there's definitely some things that they could improve on, but I would say for what it is and what they're going for, they hit the mark right on. The goal is to eliminate distractions, but still enable you to have a lot of the productive apps that you can on the phone. Before I got the phone, I found their website and they showed the apps that were available, and they were very limited. I figured it'd be even worse than I thought. But in reality, when I got the phone, they've actually enabled a lot of apps that they don't talk about online, and so I want to go over those with you, um, and I'll do that later. But from a big picture perspective, the positives I would say from using the Wise phone are no doom scrolling. I really don't do that anymore. If I get on my phone out of habit, I'm usually on it for less than 30 seconds because I get bored. Um, Hotspot still works. That's been really helpful because, I travel for work and I'm doing something. I don't want my phone to be out all the time, but if I need to get my email, if I need to get some work done, I can always hook up my hotspot to my laptop and get some work done. The interface is good. It's very, very, very simple, and it's not attractive. It's just here's the apps, and that's it. A big part of getting the Wise phone was to reduce my social media usage. It really wasn't because I was worried about checking work emails all the time and that kind of thing. So the fact that it doesn't have work email is not really a benefit to me. It's kind of an inconvenience. But at the same time, it has changed the way that I do things. And I think it's probably for the better. Some of the challenges that I had when I first got the phone is one, you'll need a new SIM card. I had an eSIM on the iPhone, and when I transitioned over, it says, hey, take it into your Verizon store. That's what I use. And they'll give you a new SIM card. That all worked great. By the way, one of the best things about the Wise phone is their instructions. Um, I actually had, for about a week, I had my iPhone in one hand and my Wise phone in the other, just while I was like trying to transition things over, because it took a little bit of time to get that done. So know that it's not a seamless process yet, but their instructions and their support are really, really good. And so as I was reading through those instructions, one of the things it noted is that, hey, if you have an iPhone, you'll probably need to go get a new SIM card. So I had to wait till Monday, went to the Verizon store, got a new SIM card. First, they were looking at my phone like, what is this? But it was pretty easy. They just gave me a new SIM, plug and play, and I was able to, make and receive calls pretty quick after that. The other thing that was a little bit of a challenge is I had a really big hard drive with a lot of pictures and everything like that on my phone. So I had to pull them all off my old iPhone, which I would have had to do anyways, right? And I ended up just downloading through iCloud and kind of starting fresh on my new phone. I also had to transfer all my contacts over, and I had a lot of contacts, and I had a lot of text messages with pictures in them. And so as I transferred my text messages over to my new phone using I think Smart Switch is what they call it, I found out really quickly that the hard drive on the new Wise phone is very small. So in order to make that work for you, you'll need to go and buy a larger micro SD card and plug it in to your phone. However, because it's a Wise phone, it doesn't have all the same functionality that you have on kind of normal Android. And so I needed to format that before I could actually put it in the phone itself. So I got the um, phone. You have to use like one of the newer SD cards adapter, and I used a 1 terabyte um, micro SD card, which I think is the largest you can use in the phone. I believe it cost me like about $100, but put the terabyte thing in there. And so after I had hooked the micro SD card up to the computer, I used ChatGPT to try to figure everything out. I went to you hit Windows X, like the Windows button X on your PC, go to disk management, um, and then I was able to right click on the volume and say new simple volume, and then you format it as an exFAT volume, which works best with the Wise phone and the Samsung phone. So once I did that, I was able to put it into the phone, and it worked great. However, I realized also that a lot of the things that I would normally think to put on the card, for instance, like all of the reason I was doing it is to get messages and everything over there, um, wouldn't actually be stored on the card. It did help transfer everything over. I don't know, maybe it just needed extra memory and capacity to do that. But once it was moved over, the messages were actually stored on the hard drive of the phone and not on the terabyte card. I think the terabyte card stores things like images, videos, etc. If you set it up that way, it'll actually prompt you and say, do you want to store these kind of things on the SD card? And ChatGPT will help you out with a lot of that if you're looking to try to figure it out. The other thing I was transferring over, as I mentioned, was my contacts. And I had to find out the best way to do that. So I have a lot of contacts on my iPhone. I also have a lot of personal contacts on my iPhone. And I noticed that when I just transferred over my contacts from my iPhone to my Samsung via Smart Switch, it only transferred over the ones that were locally stored on my phone. So the way I handled that was by going to outlook.office.com, people, manage, export, and I exported all of my contacts that were on my Outlook um, drive as a CSV, and then was able to go on a computer and import them into contacts.google.com. And so then the contacts that were on Google were mirrored on my phone, and I could be able to see them. The downside is going forward, if I want any of my work contacts on my phone, I'm going to have to import them manually. So that is a limitation that you will have. I'm not sure if it's just totally a Wise phone limitation as much as it is an Android limitation, but there are other workarounds, third-party syncing apps I think that you can pay for that maybe do some of that as well, but this is how I chose to solve the problem. Another challenge I ran into is that my wife and I, we both had iPhones, and our whole family had iPhones actually, and so we'd keep notes, iCloud notes that we would sync together. And as I got this new phone, I realized, hey, this isn't going to work anymore because, I guess I can probably log on to my computer, go to iCloud, and see the notes that we're syncing together that we could both have access to edit. But there'd be things like things to fix around the house, and so we both like know what that is, or a shared recipe, or something like that. And so I realized that if I want to do that going forward, either she has to start using like Google Notes. I think it's called Google Keep, and we can share contacts, or sorry, share notes that way. Or I just won't have that functionality anymore. One nice feature that I found in the Wise phone is that even though the format and the screen is very simple, it just basically displays each one of your apps. I think you can add up to like 6 apps on the front page that are like your main kind of apps, and the rest you just have to scroll through alphabetically. But at least they give you the ability to kind of rename the apps so that if there's apps that you use more commonly, you can just rename and put like a space and then what the name of the app is. So that way, like if there's, let's say, 10 apps that you use, you kind of scroll past the first, your favorited apps, and then you can see the rest of them that you need to see. So it's kind of a workaround that worked for me. So I'm not having to scroll through 15 apps or whatever every time I want to go to, let's say, WhatsApp and check a text message just because it starts with a W. Okay, a couple of the things that were more challenging for me that it would be nice if Wisephone was able to kind of fix them. And I get why some of them they haven't, but these are inconveniences that it would be nice if there was some kind of a workaround. There's no multi-switch app, so as I was looking online, if you open an app, to really close the app, it doesn't say close it anywhere. You just have to hit the back button until the app closes, and then that closes the app. Otherwise, you can just hit the middle kind of button, and it brings you back to your home screen, and then you can navigate to the other app you want to go to. But there's not like an iPhone where you kind of swipe up and hold, and then you can look between your open apps. That's not really an option currently, although I think they might have that going forward. When I transferred my notes over from my iPhone over to my Wise phone, I noticed that even though the notes came over, some of the pictures that were embedded within the notes didn't come over. So if you do have like important information in your notes, you may want to just keep your iPhone somewhere so you can access that if you ever have to go back to that, like those pictures that are embedded within your notes. Another thing I was used to on the iPhone is facial recognition to get into my apps. For instance, when I go log into my LastPass account to get all my passwords, I'm used to basically just holding up my phone, it recognizes me, it's integrated, and then I can log into LastPass. That is not an option here. There is facial recognition to log into the phone, but not into any of the apps. I don't know if that's totally a Wise Phone limitation or an Android limitation or what, but just be aware that you're going to have to actually remember your passwords now, or at least your last password, or your whatever password app you use to keep them. You'll have to actually log into it and remember your password, which probably isn't a bad thing to do anyways. Camera's not amazing. I liked my iPhone 13 Pro camera better, but it's a simple phone, and the camera is good enough for videos and pictures and things like that. But I would say it's not as good and doesn't have as many features as the iPhone camera. One thing that's just kind of something you have to figure out a workaround for. A lot of times, let's say you log into your Yahoo Mail or your Gmail or something online, or your iCloud. What it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, we sent something to one of your devices, which it thinks you still have an iPhone. So it says, hey, we sent something to one of your devices, open the app to log in. And you're like, well, I don't have that app anymore. I don't have Outlook, or I don't have Gmail. And so what you have to usually do is go click down and say, hey, send me a text message instead. Most of the time, I think I've been able to get that workaround to work for me when I'm trying to log into my other apps on my computer. So another thing I found was, when this is I would say a positive to the Wise Phone to keep you from being distracted, but it's also kind of a inconvenience. I was used to going on my iPhone and seeing, if I got a text message, I'd see a little bubble next to the text saying, hey, you have a text message, go check it. And so I would probably check my text more often than and know when somebody texted me. With the Wise Phone, you don't have that. It just says messages. And if you go click messages, then you can see it. And if you don't click messages, you don't know that you have a new text message. It does, I think, vibrate, and it probably can make a noise or whatever if you wanted it to. But again, like, if you miss that and then you come back to your phone, you look at it, you're not going to know there's a new message unless you actually click into message. On that note, getting everything transferred over from an iPhone to an Android, I think regardless of whether it was a Wise Phone or just an Android in general, you're going to run into kind of like some multimedia message issues. And so what I ended up doing was selecting Google Messages as my main messaging app on the Wise Phone. And that seems to have solved the majority of my problems. Additionally, and this is laid out really well in the instructions, you'll need to go online and kind of deregister yourself from iMessage. Otherwise, Apple will think that it can still send you iMessages and that you're going to get them, which you're not, because you don't have an iPhone anymore. There is no visual voicemail, and maybe that will be functional in the future. I don't know if that's more of a carrier limitation or Android limitation or what, but I basically have to go on now and listen to my voicemails on my phone rather than be able to just click on them. This is kind of a funny one. Everyone seems to have an iPhone, so when I went to go, I'd send somebody an iMessage, and then right afterwards I realized that I said something really stupid, or typed a word wrong or something, and I just click and hold on the message and then edit. When you have an Android, you can't do that anymore. So you kind of lose the functionality of that. You make it look like a dweeb a little bit, but was able to kind of get past that. Just clarify your message, send a second one, whatever. Google Street View really doesn't work on the, even though you do have Google Maps on the Wise Phone, Google Street View doesn't work. And so if you're trying to like look at property or whatever, driving around with property, I did notice, I was like, oh, I can't really see what it looks like from the street. That's a little bit of an inconvenience. I do purchase real estate, And so that would be something that's nice. But at the same time, I get like if you have to be able to access the browser to see Google Street View, then I get why that functionality wouldn't be in. So here's my Wise phone. It sometimes takes a little bit to load up. That's kind of a little bit of an inconvenience, but I got a lot of apps on here, and this is kind of how you scroll through it. Really easy to get to things. Um, Very simple, not distracting. So the apps I have on my phone that I'm really happy that they do have, the ones that I probably use the most: Maps, Camera, Phone, Messages. They actually have Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar. I use that as a budgeting app, and it syncs to my bank. So that's really convenient that they have that available. Box, I use that to access files and things for work. That is available. Calendar, I use I think it's Google Calendar actually on here, and then the other native Samsung Calendar, I think I just renamed it to Z Calendar, so it would be kind of at the bottom of the list, and I could ignore it. Um, Google Wallet, I mentioned I use that a lot. Google Keep, I use that for my Notes app now, and I found that to be pretty good. Although the weird thing with Google Keep is if you want to print off any of your notes, you have to turn it into a Google document. But it's just a little another workaround. Google Photos, I use that. Spotify, I'm glad that they have Spotify, but note that if you like listening to Joe Rogan, he is a video. That's a video podcast, and so when you click on it within the Spotify app, uh, you will not be able to watch it, and so you will not even be able to actually listen to Joe Rogan. Either you'll have to use maybe there's a different podcast app out there to be able to listen to his stuff, but that was a little different for me. Strava, really happy that they have Strava on here because I like to run and mountain bike and work out, and Strava has been really fun for me to be able to have on my phone. Teams, as I mentioned, is a great app to have on your phone. Able to get on calls with that when I need to, and I actually use it to also access my work calendar since I can't use the native Outlook app. I use the native Teams app to be able to access the calendar. And then I recently also kind of mirrored my work calendar into my Google Calendar so that I can see that on my phone. But note that you can't create events from your Google Calendar to put onto your Outlook calendar. Um, so there is a little bit of a inconvenience there. Airbnb, a lot of the airline apps like Alaska, those kind of things are on there. The Alexa app is on there. I think there are some limitations with it though. Audible, Aura, if you have a one of those digital picture frames, they have Aura on here. The Band app, if you're coordinating like your daughter's dance classes, they do have the Band app on here. Um, Calculator, a lot of banking apps. They even have Idaho Central Credit Union, which is a bank that I use, so that's great. Drive, um, Google Drive to be able to access your docs, like the Microsoft Excel app, that's on there. Garmin, so I can connect to my watch, which I'm not wearing right now, but if you need to connect to your Garmin, they have Garmin Connect and Garmin Connect IQ. Hue for the Philips light, they do have that on there. Great Clips to get your haircut, log in for your haircut, that's all on there. Land Glide, if you're into like looking for real estate, that's a great app, and you can basically like drive around and see who owns what parcels. And so I like that app, and they do have that on there, although it is a paid subscription. LastPass, as I mentioned, has been invaluable for me to have on my phone. Life 360, also good, probably especially if you have kids and you're tracking them. Google Meet. See here. like your Verizon app, your My Verizon, OneDrive, Onyx Hunt. That's also a good one. Also tells you landowner information, so you're not trespassing on other people's land. PayPal, good. Have on there. The Robinhood app, Starlink, Upside if you're looking for gas discounts, and USAA for your insurance or your banking. Venmo is on there. They've got a voice recorder. They have a weather app, although it's not maybe one of the ones you normally use. Wells Fargo, again, banking apps, and like Word. So those are kind of some of the apps that I have on my phone, some of the apps that I use quite a bit. And I was happy to see that they had so many different options for me on the phone. There are some apps though that I think should be on the Wise phone that doesn't seem like they've added, and I don't really know why, because they seem like productive apps that aren't distractions. Lutron, which enables you to control your lights within the house, that's not there. Control 4, again, some smart houses are set up with that, and so without Control 4, uh, you can't access like the security system or whatever from your phone. Duolingo would be nice. I mean, I did have to lose my 600-day streak because I changed from an iPhone to a Wise phone and couldn't access Duolingo anymore. That said, it was kind of, again, that's a positive and a negative, because even though I'm learning a new language, it's not maybe the best way to learn it, and is it really the most efficient use of my time and the way I want to focus my efforts? Maybe not. Positive and negative. They don't have a Taco Bell app or a McDonald's app on there right now. So the discounted frappes that I'm used to getting at McDonald's are not available anymore. That's probably a positive and a negative. I use a program called My Solar Edge to control the solar of my house. Not available, so you'll have to figure out another way around that if you use that app. LoopNet, not available. That would be one that I think would be helpful to use and to have. And I don't really know why they wouldn't have LoopNet available as an app on your phone. And Zoom, they do have Teams and I think like Google Meet, but they don't have Zoom for some reason. And so, when I leave the office and I want to have a Zoom call, or I have to be on a Zoom call, like now I just either have to have my laptop connected, um, or I need to stay at the office to take a Zoom call. So that's a little bit of an inconvenience as well. In conclusion, I would give the Wise Phone 2 an A. In conclusion, I would give the Wise Phone 2 an A. They've done a great job of making a minimalist phone that you can access, that I can access, the necessary productive apps without causing needless distraction on. In conclusion, I'd give the Wise Phone 2 an A. They've done a great job of giving most users the ability to access the most productive apps while eliminating the distracting apps that in conclusion, I'd give the Wise Phone 2 an A. They've done a great job of eliminating the distracting apps while still preserving some of the productive apps that you use on a day-to-day basis. I'd encourage anyone who is looking to simplify their life to look into the Wise Phone 2. I'm looking forward to seeing any new developments on the Wise Phone 2. I'm hoping to stick with it. I figure, you know what, if it doesn't work, I can always go back. But this is really what I'd like to do and kind of how I want to see my life. I'm hoping that they'll enable some apps like the McDonald's app so that I can get my $1.50 off my frappes in the morning. But other than that, really, really happy with generally really happy with the Wise Phone. This review of the Wise Phone was done in January of 2026, and I'm sure that they'll come out with new features that make things easier and harder, probably all at the same time, which is kind of the intent. But if I mention anything on the video that is inaccurate, or that you found a workaround for, or that you think would be helpful to other users, please mention it in the comments. And thanks for listening.